house at this price.
What is the price on it?
Price it at 675. We are under contract at 725.
Nice. Holy cow. 50 grand over. Is this your first listing?
I know.
It's awesome. Good
So
for you.
It's that beginner luck theory.
I don't think so. She did the work behind it. Yeah, you could say that, but
like there's something about like when you put the work in and on your
Thanks.
first time, like you
Thanks,
get the
Hunter.
boost to like, you know, and so no, I know that you did a ton of work, so I'm not discounting that
Don't
because
discount my work.
yeah.
I won't. I told her next time she has an open house, I'm gonna crash it because I was gonna go just check out her open house because she lives like 4 blocks from me.
No way.
And I was like thinking about it that day, and then I just got busy, and I was like, it's almost 4, it's over anyways, and I just didn't go. And I was like, why didn't I go?
You missed out on the party.
I know.
Amy was there. My husband and I came. We got ice cream and churros.
Yeah.
Get ice cream and churros. Tell me about that.
So I knew that this house, the highlight of this house for me is the backyard space because it's on the edge of the bench and it's all wooded in the backyard. So, and it's in a normal Provo neighborhood. You wouldn't expect it to have views. You wouldn't expect it to have like this big backyard. It's on 0.67 acres. And it's like an oasis back there. You just feel like you're in the middle of everything in this neighborhood. And then you go to the backyard and you feel like you're away.
Wow.
So I just wanted, like, we put a bunch of, we staged it with some fun patio furniture. I just wanted people to come to the open house and hang out back there and realize, like, this is a fun vibe. So I had my daughter and my niece serving soft serve ice cream and churros. And
Did you rent a machine for it? Good for you, Courtney. Putting in the work and the investment in it to get it sold.
Yeah.
So the patio furniture was not theirs.
No,
You found somebody to stage that.
that's my patio furniture. I just
Took it down the street.
I was talking to Susie yesterday, and Susie says that she has bought a trailer to store all of her staging items because she always stages a house and she uses a lot of her own stuff.
Yeah, she does.
Well, I mean,
She's good at it too.
Yeah. Does she have a company?
It's a trailer with all of her stuff. I don't know if she puts it in a storage unit as well or if it's a company. I don't know. I just know she does it with a lot of the listings. I tried to get her to do it for one of mine once, but I don't think that she does a whole bunch of them. I think she mostly does it for hers. Hey, Erica, how are you?
Do you stage all your listings?
No, so I'll give them a staging consultation if they want it, if I feel like it's needed, and I'll talk about, what they can do for staging. If it's a nicer house or it's big and I feel like it's cold or empty, whatever, then I'll pay for somebody to come over. And I've had different people come over and do like a staging consultation. And if they want to stage, I have stagers that will do it, but I don't pay for staging for it. If it's going to be a couple $1,000, that's an expense that they can kind of decide if they want to move on with. There are some agents that do it though, but for me, it's not part of what I offer because it can go from that to then what, another 1,500 the next month, or if it's half price, another 1,000 or whatever, or even if it's 1,500 and then it's half price. I think Cindy did one for me. It's 1,500 to stage it because it already had some things in the house, or it was kind of minimal, and then it was $750, half the price per month. And they kept it for a couple months after, but 3 months, and it hadn't sold, and it was a tricky one. And so I don't know. I don't know what the price tag is going to be at the end, or if I, stage for 15 and then, I don't know.
Send it to your client because like you could add this expense onto this.
I always present it to them if they are interested in it. I let them know, like, if they're interested in staging. Some people are just, they don't want to, and actually some people don't need to. I have a client right now that has a fantastic looking house. I mean, the people thought it was staged because she decorated so well. So it's one of those things you get to negotiate with your clients. But yeah, I don't personally just throw it out there as, I'm going to do this for you, because I'm probably already going to spend $300 or $400, $600 on photos, videos, like whatever else, it needs. So
Like giving advice on if they have a lot of stuff. And it's not, if it was just like, pack up some of these things, take all the magnets off your fridge. You have like a lighthouse collection that's like taking over.
Please.
Do you advise them? about that.
Sounds like your question is, am I honest with them about how they need to declutter?
Sometimes that can, from people I've heard in the past, sometimes they take offense to it, right?
I usually preface it so I hope they don't take offense. And especially if they have like animals, I let them know, like, on a scale of 1 to 10, how honest do you want me to be? Like, and they're always like a 10. Nobody wants you to not be honest with them. They always say, oh, 10 out of 10. I'm like, okay, good. Don't take offense if I'm just going to go by and try to give a professional critique and try to see it from the eyes of a buyer. So it's not me being critical of them. It's through the eyes of a buyer. So I say, look, I'm going to walk through kind of with the eyes of a buyer. And if they have a dog and I can smell something, I'll say, you know what? I have a dog. I love dogs. And yet some people don't love them. I can smell that maybe there's been a dog here. Is this where he lays down? Or if I see the bed, I'm like, we probably want to have that out of the way. Plus, I don't want to have any signs of pet food laying around, bowls, dishes, or if they have a light display. I ask them about it. Wow, this is really, extensive. How did you guys do this? Or is this your son's? I ask them about it. And if it ends up being something that's really sentimental to them, we'll say, well, look, I don't want to take away from that. I actually love this. It looks really nice. And it also probably isn't the best staging thing for, buyer coming through. They might not have that same passion for it or love. So I'll preface it like, do you want me to be totally honest, and do you want me to sugarcoat things a little? Oh no, don't. Please be totally honest. So then I've asked them and now they've given me permission to be completely honest, and then of course I'm going to be gentle in how I tell them some of those things, but I won't pass them up. And if there's stuff everywhere, I'll say, hey, your house is probably actually bigger than it feels because there's so many things you can see. We want to see the most of the tile floor, the most of the carpet floor we can see. And with so many things in here, it's tough to get a feel of how big this actually is. So we want buyers to feel like, hey, there's some space in this room. So what can we do to, take some of these things out? And you feel like a garage or storage unit would be appropriate? Like, what are your thoughts on it? And then kind of get their feedback and see where they're coming from. And well, I can't put it in the garage because we've got, this or this. And you have, family member, could you feel like a storage unit would be, you feel like spending a few $100 on a storage unit would be worth it if it brings you a few more $1,000s on the price? I don't know. There are ways you can kind of talk. Seems like everything is a negotiation in real estate. So
Don't help them pack up a little sooner.
Mhm.
They're gonna be
Yeah.
doing it eventually.
I agree. And if this person's like, you kind of know their personalities, right? You're getting to know them on that first visit. And if I know they're just a driver, like, man, just give it to me or we're limited on time. I said, look, I would declutter for sure. I would get out all the stuff that you don't need, only have the bed and the dresser in this room. And I kind of go through and just tell them I would declutter and I can come back and check it for you, if they're on a tight schedule. I would also depersonalize so there aren't big family pictures and that kind of thing. You got a beautiful family, and yet I don't want the buyer to be distracted by your family of what a great looking family you have. So let's get rid of some of that stuff and have some neutral pictures or nothing there. And that's what I do. So, with that said, why don't we jump into negotiating offers on this clicker that is backwards that nobody likes? So here's what we're going over today. We're going to talk about negotiation, how we define it, and the 3 P's of negotiation, tips. We'll recap, and then we'll run through the daily success system where you get to make some of your own calls in front of the group. No, I'm just kidding. You don't have to do that.
I love
Our
making
heart
calls.
rate's
That's
going
like,
up.
that's like one of my favorite things. I have to like,
Nice.
limit myself and be like, okay, 15 minutes is my max. And like, I'll keep the phone on speaker and
Oh, per call.
yeah, per call.
Yeah.
15 minutes and like 8 to 14 minutes is the sweet spot because it's
For
a
you?
nice conversation, but it's not too long and drawn out.
Nice. Can you read this for me, Dave?
Negotiating is not something to be avoided or feared. It is an everyday part of life.
True statement.
True, true.
What are your thoughts on what negotiation is? Anybody got any thoughts before we?
Negotiation is a conversation.
Okay. Conversation. Why do you say that?
You have to have both sides talking back and forth, or else there is no negotiation. So you have to have communication. yeah, to have backup.
I like it. Any other thoughts? Yeah, Courtney?
Need to find a place for everybody to feel good, feel like a win, right? A win-win.
Yep. I think you guys are both spot on. And KW wants us to keep these things in mind. And actually, it's a great model for success in negotiations. Remember that, you're looking for a win-win deal. I'd say that's probably the most important one. Good communication, integrity, obviously, customers first.
What's this acronym again?
Y4C2Ts.
Y4C2Ts.
Yep. Just an
Every time I
easy.
see it, I'm like,
So
know
just
what
an
this is
easy
about.
way to remember it. It's an abbreviation, of course, of win-win or no deal, integrity, do the right thing, customers always come first, commitment in all things. Yeah, it's so we'll keep these in mind as we're going through the process. When you're submitting an offer as a buyer's agent or you're receiving one, this is kind of showing us that there are really two options. We either accept it right away, which feel like almost never happens unless it's a multiple offer, right? And then sometimes you're still tweaking something. And even in those scenarios, I feel like sometimes you're negotiating with your client a little bit. And then the other option, obviously, is to reject it or counter it. I personally never advise a client to reject an offer. I feel like that's not even an option unless it's a ridiculous one or by a company and they don't want to sell to them, then great, reject it. But the ultimate goal is what? In negotiations. Yeah, make a deal. They want it to close, but your client wants it to close. We're not there to play just hardball and stick it to somebody. That's not what a great negotiator is. So I personally don't like the option of rejecting an offer. I always tell my client, like, hey, ball's in our court. Like, let's throw something out there, even if it's the exact same asking price, and let them decide to turn it down if they don't want to do it. But I wouldn't reject an offer typically. So who do we negotiate with? And who do you feel like you negotiate with more? My kids is probably who I negotiate with the most. And you guys feel that way? Mm-hmm.
Sometimes.
You're going to negotiate a ton with your client. That's going to start when you first meet with them, when you're talking about, when you're going to list, how you're going to list, the price, all that kind of stuff is all part of the negotiation. Hopefully they have enough trust in you guys that, they'll listen to your advice on some of it. What happens if they don't?
You're not going to sell the property. Is the worst case.
Okay. Worst case, if they are ridiculous about it, you feel like you can't help them. I guess that's true.
Yeah, because I'm struggling with I got my first listing on Monday.
Oh, congrats.
The price. So my first issue was the price that she first threw out to me. Because the way that I approached it, I was like, before we even went through the comps, I was like, what do you see this place selling for? And it was 20,000 over the best comp I had.
Okay.
And so when she said that, I said, okay, we can try that, but let's look at these comps because the best comp I have is 20,000 less than that. And so then she was like, oh, okay, well, that's not so bad. And then, so we finally kind of came to an agreement on price. And then.
So you didn't try it at that because you said, well, we could try it at that.
She still got to prepare the house. It's going to go live 6/1. And so we've got about 4 weeks. And I told her before we 100% decide on a price, we're going to sit back down and look at comps again, like the day before or a couple of days before it goes live, and we can see what the comps tell us because we've got to justify this price.
Mm-hmm.
And so then when I was talking with her again about the commission, she didn't want to pay commission either.
Mm-hmm.
And so, she didn't mind paying my commission. She didn't want to pay a buyer's commission.
Okay.
So I was like, well.
What is your commission?
3%.
On a listing? Are you sure?
Okay.
So you don't ever plan to pay a buyer?
Well, no. So the seller's commission was 3%, and what I talked her into was 2% for the buyer. So it's 5% total. but she wanted to raise the price back up by paying that buyer's commission. So it's kind of like,
Interesting.
yeah, it's kind of like a give and take.
So just a thought on commissions. I know that's a different class, but you got to negotiate those too. So when I go in to negotiate a commission, it's a commission. Mine's 6%, and that's what I negotiate. That's what we do. And I choose how much to pay a buyer's agent. I always choose 3% because I want a buyer to come bring it in. I know other buyers have that brought, but that is, I don't ever go in and negotiate 3% listing commission because that's not commission. They've got to understand that now that you've got a 5% listing, basically, right? You
Yeah.
sign an agreement that your brokerage commission is 5%, not that it's 3. And then if the buyer comes, you're going to add more, right? You negotiate at 5% on this particular case. Then you put down below the buyer's commission is going to be 2% if they bring a buyer. Now, what happens if you do an amazing job, you spend the money and time, rent a churro machine and a soft serve, and you bring the buyer? What happens when you bring the buyer? You back down to 3 instead of 5? Probably, right? Because you said it's 3. But if you negotiate it and she understands that the listing agent commission is 5% on this,
Okay.
mine's 6. So I would say, hey, it's 6% on this. And if they happen to bring, a buyer's agent brings a buyer, we certainly want them to. And I'm going to advertise half of this for anybody that can bring a buyer. I'm hoping I can bring my own because that's awesome. And, and I'm willing to spend the extra marketing dollars to do that. But in case somebody else brings a buyer, we set that aside, in case for them. Well, what happens if you bring it? Well, then it's still 6%. That's the brokerage commission, right? It doesn't change or fluctuate unless you have a dual variable rate, and then you have to disclose that on the MLS right now too, right? That it's a dual variable rate, meaning if buyer's agents can see that if you bring the buyer, that the commission changes and probably drops, and they're going to look at that and be like, oh, he's got kind of an unfair advantage on this. So I don't particularly do dual variable rates, just something to consider. And I'm stoked you got your first listing, man. And you know what? You're going to get paid on it because you've got a commission set. That's awesome. I'm guessing that a buyer's agent's probably going to say, at least if it were me, I'd come in and be like, hey, Dave, my commission with these guys is 3%. They don't want to make that up. If you let your seller know, we're just going to submit this form with our offer.
Well, and that's kind of what I planned on putting in the listing was to just put in your offers. And I can't remember how Red Sign Team listed it last time because they listed one that was 0%.
Mhm.
And I think that they just put in the description to put in your offer what, commission rate or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
So I was going to try and find that listing and see how they wrote it up. But have you seen many that are offering 0 to the buyer's agent?
No. Ever.
Well,
Even when another discount brokerage that, we don't name other brokerages, don't want to knock them, but I've seen people offer like 1,500 or something, but never seen anybody offer 0. And in fact, I don't know if the number can be 0 on the MLS. Can it? I think it's got to be at least $1.
Was talking about it because they had a listing that didn't offer buyer commission, and it got advertised on the MLS at $1.
Yeah, and they can do that, and that's offering a commission. So when you sit down with the buyers, it's obviously important that appointment that you let them know that, hey, it's 3% is the brokerage fee, and most of the time a seller will take care of that. And in case they don't, just understand that changes your closing costs. They would be a little bit higher. So
just double check the brokerage is like 6%. That's 3 and 3.
it's whatever you want to charge. The brokerage doesn't have anything set at 6%. You could do 7% if you want. In fact, you could do 10%. If you feel like you can figure out a way to go 10%, that'd be incredible for you, right?
But that's
Right. Yeah. You doesn't have to be even. You could. So I did a deal with the guy in Eagle Mountain. It was an agent from another brokerage, kind of known for this, and he had 2% listed on the 2 or 2.5. And of course, I asked him. I just said, "Hey, is this a?" I think it was 2.5 million. I just said, "Hey, is this a 5% listing?" Just curious, because it's only I just see it's only 2.5% on the other side, and I'm a little bit more understanding when it's not. And even if I'm not, it doesn't matter. I have an agreement with my client for 3%. I'm still going to submit it, right? They could be making $100 or 1% on the other side, but my agreement is for 3%. So he just said, well, he said, no, but it doesn't matter. He said, I could do 7% and then only offer 1%. And so I kind of thought, oh, I wonder if he did do 7%. Anyway, I said it ended up being multiple offers. And so I didn't want to hurt my client's position. In this particular family, I decided I wasn't going to charge them any extra closing costs to make that up. I just talked to the agent. I said, look, I understand what you're doing. I totally get it. And yes, totally valid. You can do that if you want. I just said, I think word gets out if somebody's not, if somebody's doing that and taking a whole bunch and then not offering, what they feel a buyer's agent's worth. And so, because there's no set commission on any side of things, to be clear. But anyway, we talked about it and I said, he was really pushing like, hey, if they want it, they better hurry. And so I wondered if they really had, their offers. I didn't like his style, really pushy, and it was more of a win-lose type style.
Yeah.
And ultimately I was like, I'm gonna do what's best for my client and I'm gonna submit the offer. I'm gonna forget about the commission. Well, when we closed, I ended up getting 3.5. It ended up being a 7% listing. And I don't know if he did that intentionally or if he forgot to tell title, like not to split it, but I got 3.5 and was like, oh, sweet. It was a 7% listing and I got half. I know some people that do, guy that taught my negotiation expert courses, he does 6, 7, and 8. Those are his 3 different commissions that people can choose from. And he said at first he was always surprised how many people chose the 7 because they don't want to feel like they're doing the cheapest thing. Maybe they don't want to pay for the most expensive thing. I know somebody that does 5.5, 6, and 6.5 too. And you get a few more services with the 6.5 than you do with the 6 and the 5.5. You have to cut a service or two if you're not interested in that. So you figure out what yours is. Mine's 6. That's what I charge. And with a buyer, I've never signed one for less than 3. I know I've heard of people signing, and I thought, a lot of these are offering 2.5. And somebody told me they only put 2.5 on the agreement. I'm like, really? What if they offer 3 then? Do you not take the other, And now it's going to be the case after July. If you only have a 2% commission with your buyer and they offer 4, you can only take the amount that you have with your buyer, right? You can only take the 2% after that. But right now they could offer 5 and you have a 1% commission agreement and you get the whole 5. But after July it changes. So I would figure out what you feel like your worth
Well,
is
they're
on the
not
buyer
gonna be
agent
on
side.
Call, I guess.
Yeah, you can call or just submit an offer with your commission on it. Yeah, I would call the other agent anyway, right? I
Yeah,
always
you
call
can
before
call.
I submit an offer. I don't submit an offer without calling and hearing the other person's voice and talking with them and, hey, great house. My client really liked it. We're going to be submitting an offer. And in fact, before I submit it, I like to call them so I can hear kind of where things are. And sorry, got sidetracked.
Yeah, we got off topic a little bit, but it was about
That's a
negotiation.
big part of negotiation.
Yeah.
When you finish that dialogue you just started.
Which one?
House, you're talking to agents, what are you trying to fill out?
Well, I'm trying to get a sense of how many showings there have been, like if there's another offer on the home and not sound desperate, like, hey, any offers on this home? We really love it. But just like, hey, it's a great house, gosh, what's prompting them to move? This is a great place. And sometimes they're like, I don't really know, and they haven't done their research or they don't want to share. And sometimes they'll say, well, gosh, he's moving out of town and they've got to sell by a certain time. Now I know there's some leverage on my side with timing. So I'll ask like whatever I can. And I just call them to let them know like, man, great job on the listing. The photos look great. I won't tell them that if it's not true. But, hey, photos look great. Like it showed well. It smelled good. Like, man, you must have coached them well. Like, good job. And they're, oh yeah, well, thanks. Like they're feeling pretty good. And so then now they're a little bit more open just to a conversation. And I'm not trying to be sneaky, but I'm trying to compliment them and letting them know, hey, good job, good professionalism. Like, what else can you tell me about it that may not be there, on the MLS? And if they say, well, what do you want to know? Well, gosh, I'm just curious, what's making them want to move, and what's their timing like? I always ask about timing because if it's something that timing is of the essence and the agent isn't smart enough to tell me, I don't mean it in a derogatory way. If the agent just doesn't think about telling me or is just like, skips it and isn't thinking about it because he's overwhelmed, then I don't know, I want to ask those kind of questions, right? Because there are two things that we can negotiate in the offer. What are they? What are the two main things we negotiate? Price,
Due diligence.
time, yes. Due diligence, yes. What else? These are all part of something. What's that? Concessions, perfect. And those are all part of price or terms. Yep. Those are really the two things that we negotiate. And they can be financial, like concessions or, a home warranty, whatever that is, or they can be time based. And usually timing is a big deal. So sometimes it's not. Sometimes price is the only thing. But if I'm going to ask them and I'm going to present an offer, I normally say, other than just the price, like we all know that's important. Other than the price, is there anything else that's important to your seller? And then sometimes they'll open up and be like, "Hey, glad you asked. They really want to keep that chandelier. I told them to take it down, but it's from their grandma, whatever." I mean, they'll go into random things, and you're like, "Okay, all right." And then if I write an offer that just automatically excludes grandma's chandelier, they're going on the other end, like, "Man, I'm so glad they did that. Wow, what great people. We want these people to have our house." So it makes a difference on how you approach.
Last concession right now than like last year. I know the concessions were a lot more prevalent last year, right?
Yeah, I still see some concessions, and a lot of that was based on builders, right? I think they affected the industry because builders were offering 3% and rate buy down, or a specific rate with their lender, or they were offering all this money towards closing costs because they knew that they could either buy down the rate or take down the price, however they wanted to use it. But Edge was doing 3% commission and 3% for the client to buy down their whatever they wanted to, price, rate, whatever. So yeah, I'm still seeing it. Yeah.
So speaking of Courtney's finishing the conversation.
Oh yeah.
I would love to hear how you would help finish the conversation, or how you would do the conversation that Dave got into with his seller saying, "I don't want to pay for the buyer's commission."
Yeah.
I would be like,
Yep.
you would need to kind of have some things like, is that hard, Dave?
Oh, we can role play it if you want.
Yeah. Be
I don't know if
be
I
your
can
buyer.
Seller,
Yeah, or yeah, be your seller.
I'll start, I'll say, yeah, I'm not really sure that, I think the buyer should pay the buyer's agent commission.
Yeah, I can appreciate that. What makes you feel that way?
Just not gonna be making that much money off of this sale. I wanna take a trip to England and I need to move and I need to pay all my expenses. And so really I need to net the most amount I can from this listing.
Got it, Dave. So it sounds like netting the most is super important to you. You also mentioned expenses. Can you tell me more about that?
Yeah, I'm moving out of state, so it's kind of up in there right now. It's either gonna be Texas or California.
Oh wow, I didn't realize that.
Yeah, so the move is gonna be a lot. I'm getting older in age, and
Okay.
I really like England, and so I want to take a trip to England with what I can net from this. And those are my goals. Is I want to be able to move. I want to have a little bit of a nest egg, and I want to take a trip with my family.
Got it, Dave. So it sounds like you need a little bit of a nest egg. You feel like, are you close to retirement?
I'm on Social Security right now.
Oh, good for you. That's great. Nice that we still have it around. I worry that we're going to have it when I get older. So I'm glad it's helping you. And you want to move to either, you mentioned Texas or California. Uh, and this is really, sorry, out of roll for a second. I may take longer on this than we should, but it's how I really would do it with somebody. I'm not going to get right to, you really need to pay a buyer's,
Yeah.
I want to understand where they're coming from. I want to ask questions about the move. Like, okay, I understand you don't want to pay a buyer's agent. Tell me more about that. What are you thinking? And now we're getting into, got to move, needs a nest egg, trip to England. Like, he's got all kinds of reasons, right? Back and roll. So, Dave, can you tell me about the trip to England? That sounds fascinating. That sounds incredible.
So if you take a look in my office, I have all this English memorabilia, and I just love England. I would live there if I
No kidding.
could. And like I said, I'm getting a little bit older, and I want to go at least one more time while I can still enjoy it.
It sounds incredible. What got you into all the memorabilia and all the, the excitement about England?
I don't know. It's just kind of my thing. It's just I love to go thrifting and I love to go and find little treasures. And when I can find them in that English style, it just really it's my thing.
So cool. And have you found quite a bit? I saw your office had quite a few things. How long have you been collecting?
Ever since I was 30 or 40, I itch.
Wow. Yeah, so cool. Well, really cool, Dave. That's kind of exciting. And I'm excited that you're gonna take that trip to England. You take anybody with you?
Yeah, I want to take my family.
So fun. How many people are you taking with you?
We'll have to see how much we make off the
Okay.
house before we can book the trip.
And the reason I ask, I wasn't trying to get too personal. I'm just curious if you're thinking you're paying for people in your family, or are they going to kind of pay their own ticket?
I wanted to take at least 1 to 3 other people with me that I could pay for.
That's incredible. Okay, so you're actually going to foot the bill for them to do this. Wow, good for you. That's super generous of you, by the way. Neat. Well, you also mentioned that you weren't super excited to pay a agent commission. As I mentioned, our brokerage commission is 6%, and actually, you don't have to pay extra over that 6% for a buyer's agent. Part of that we offer to a buyer's agent in case a buyer's agent brings ones in, we're going to work our guts out to bring, hopefully our own buyer, because we'd obviously have the 6% to work with. But if a buyer's agent brings one, we'll cut that in half with them and allow them to bring a buyer. Is that something that works for you? So it's not. I just want to make sure it's not over and beyond the 6% that we've already discussed.
Yeah, that seems better. But what happens if we just find our own buyer?
Do you mean if I find a buyer for it, if you guys do, or yeah? So it's still the same. So what generally happens when we find our own buyer is we obviously owe the brokerage double the fees, and then we pay transaction coordinators, and we'll still do all the marketing. But if it comes from our own, our own legwork, that's my best hope, is that I can bring a buyer. That's what we really shoot for every time. So that's kind of the goal.
I think that sounds okay.
Okay. Any other questions about commission or buyer side?
No, I think we're good.
Okay, great. Move on. And if they weren't quite that easy with it, and they're thinking separate, if they understand commission is a commission, you're not paying a buyer a listing and then a buyer's commission. Like, it is one commission, and the listing brokerage decides. All we do is show them what we're planning to do in the notes. I did one recently that was 5.5. It's door situation, and I did 3 on the listing side, 2.5 there. But I actually thought, oh, maybe I'll do 3 because they really need to sell quickly. I'll take the cut on my end. Like, I just need this home to sell. I want to, and even if I had to go 3.5, like whatever it takes, this house has to be sold by May 18th. And so we're already under contract. But then they saw it was a whole different mess because we didn't actually get to meet in person. I didn't know at the time that they were separated. I had no idea the divorce was going, or it headed in that direction. I just got the call and was like, or I got the text, hey, I wanted to introduce you to my wife, and it's an old guy I know from a different career. It's like, we wanted to introduce you, and like, hey, great, hey, we need to sell our house by May 18th. I'm like, oh, awesome, we probably need to get it listed today. Like, literally we have to get it listed by tomorrow. If a buyer takes 30 days and we're 35 days out, like, we need pictures, we need this. The wife comments back, hey, we have pictures. I'm like, oh, awesome, can you send them over? And they weren't that great, but we used them. And I said, I would actually, I said, these are great for now. I would like to get some professional pictures done. If that's okay with you, I'd still like to do that. And don't worry, I'll pay for it. Oh, these are professional. I can say the brokerage, yeah. Homie did these for us in professional. I thought, okay. Well, I still would be open to buying some new pictures if you're open to that. Well, we had tenants there. Anyway, we kind of get into this whole mess, and I only share it because at 2.5%, they did ask, like, whoa, 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 you have to pay the buyer's agent 3. You got to sell quickly. I said, yeah, I totally get it. When I take a listing, which I don't do very often, it's less than 6%. I told you guys that I would do this for 5.5. He's an old friend of mine. Like, I said, we just put that in the listing because we can fluctuate that commission, but we have to have down, the minimum that we're willing to pay. If I want to raise it to 3.5, then I can do that. And she said, well, I think we ought to start with 3. And I agreed with her. I said, totally fine. It's just typically the way I do it, if it's not a 6, it's usually a 6. I don't have to think about it. But yes, I agree with you. If you want to go ahead and sign it, I'll make sure it's 3. She's like, well, do you need to change the paperwork? I said, totally up to you. If that helps you feel better, but I'm telling you, I will put 3 on the listing. Totally up to you. If you'd like me to redo that, I know we haven't met. And I finally had to call her at this point. We hadn't even spoken on the phone. And I called her and just wanted to know kind of my thinking, reasoning. And he said, well, he said you were cutting your own commission. I said, I am. My commission's 6%. And we cut it down to 5.5. She's like, oh, that's why that's that way. And I was like, yeah, the commission, if, well, what happens if you bring a buyer? And you would still just pay the 5.5% that we agreed on. And, she was fine with it. It was like, oh, okay, now I understand. But people have a misconception that they're 2 separate things. And yes, we offer buyer commission. I do, but they're not always 2 set. They're not, I don't do them as 2 separate things. And with the way things are going now, people could potentially do that and say, hey, I charge 3%. Do you want to pay a buyer commission on this? I probably won't. I'll just let them know my intention and let them know that, hey, this is what I charge, whether you pay a buyer or not. I charge 6%, and this is what we'll do. And here's why it's worth it if I need to, all that stuff. And if it's okay with you, I'd like to be able to pay half of this to a buyer. And, I don't know.
And I think a lot of times we as professionals can misinterpret someone's question for an objection. And
Right.
so like a lot of times they're asking you about commission and you're interpreting it as an objection. And I think rather than answering their question, we try to justify their objection. And I've been trying to.
That might be one of the best thoughts we'll have today. That's a great thought.
Trying to rethink how I answer questions, because we always want to explain and say, oh, well, this is how this works. And they're not asking for an explanation. They're asking a question.
Yep.
And so answer
the question.
Not explain financing, because then you're just going to confuse the situation. They're going to be like, what? And I think that the way that I approached her initially about commission was probably not the best way. And so
You know what? Great learning experience. Then you're like, oh yeah, I'm gonna forget that one.
Yeah, no, and it's like it's just like everything. Like you go walk these homes and like there's no substitute for experience. And so like you can study all you want, and you can practice all you want, and it's all well and good. But until you actually put yourself in that situation, you're not going to really learn the lesson.
I agree. That is why we will make some calls today so that we actually learn. Yes, Erica.
What that charges 6%, 7 or 8, like what?
Yeah. So, depending on the price range, Bruce did, I think with 7, he included 3D photography, aerial photography. I already include that on mine. If I were going to charge up to 8, I'd probably include moving expenses or something. I mean, you'll have to kind of come up. It's been a long time ago, and I don't think I have it in this book, but he kind of had his own structure, and it was fairly simple. It was like 2 or 3 things more, right? It wasn't like this whole array list of things. Have you guys been through the new class yet that we're required to go through, the value square? You been through that? So they give a nice list of things on value square that really could be used well. And if you look at like Pro Media, that's one of our, I was looking at theirs last night for one of my listings. I've never used them, but their top tier is $826 or something, right? It's got all these different things: social media, reel, video, aerial video, like all these different things. Their next package is $620, and then they've got, $300 package, and then they're $150. So they just have it tiered. And so I'm actually going to look at some of that stuff and maybe mark it down if I do the tier system. And I am thinking I may.
8%, you could offer them a pod.
Right? You could. $0 for a pod. Yep. So I do photos and marketing, and I leave it a little bit vague. Because I may throw ads on KSL for $10 a day, which I don't think is the best marketing, but I'll do Facebook marketing, and it just depends on how well that one's doing. And if it's not doing well, then I'll turn around and do some other, I'll change the marketing and do something else. I'll pay up to $150 for a cleaning service to come in and tidy up their home. I'll pay, or they can use it for somebody to come in and kind of look through their house and give them some staging ideas. So an interior designer type person, depending on how much time we have. So I try to keep costs low. I'm also running a business, so I try to keep my costs low. Usually pictures aren't more than a couple $100. I have a drone, so I've done some of my own aerial photography. Don't tell anyone. I don't have my license. Right? I mean, they're fun, and I get handed to my client, let him snap his own photos, and it's legal. I don't know. I know you're supposed to have some kind of license for it, but and I've paid for those too, right? Yeah, I've paid for those too. Right. Yep. So I don't know. And I've done video walkthroughs. I've paid for 3D and 2D stuff. Like you can do all kinds of things to kind of wow your clients. I always ask them like what they hope for in a listing. Like what are they expecting in my listing presentation? Is there anything else that someone else has promised you that I may have forgotten to mention? Type thing, right? It's a Bain Kinney script. So
Let's say you have it at 6, right? And the buyer sends an offer with a 2.5. You keep 3.5 or?
no, like right now in the MLS, we did what's there. They don't send in, by the way, they don't send in their buyer broker agreement right now. May have to after July, but I think commissions are going to be easier after July. I think right now it's so all over the board because of these companies that want to come in and they're discount companies and want to only charge say they're going to charge a smaller amount. This divorce situation I'm working with right now, they happen to use one of those companies a couple of years ago, and it did not work out for them. They dropped the price $100,000 and couldn't get it sold. I'm selling it for more right now than what it should have sold for like back then.
So
We
my last home, we lived in the same neighborhood where it was for like 7 years, and it went on the market. My ex was in real estate for quite a few years, so she would always look at real estate as a habit. And she found this house, and this is why you need a good agent, because the house went on the market. It was 2015 timeframe, and she showed it to me, and the pictures were horrible. The pictures were like cell phone pictures from 2015. Like it has a great room that like they have one picture of the living room, they have one picture of the dining table, one picture of the kitchen, so you had no idea that it was all one room.
yeah.
Had vaulted ceilings, couldn't see the vaulted ceilings, like, and so she showed it to me, and she's like, "Do you want to go look at it? It looks pretty good to me." And I was like, "For that price, that doesn't look good." I was like, "No, I don't want to go look at that." So fast forward 10 months later, and it was in short sale. And we went, she's like, "You want to go look at it now? It's in short sale." I was like, "Yeah, we can go look at it now." And when I walked in, I felt horrible for these people because, they're losing all their investment because they had a crappy agent. And
See
this
that.
is the only short sale that I've ever done. Everybody always says short sales take forever. I had put an offer in on this short sale. We hadn't listed our house, and they accepted it within 2 weeks. It was accepted.
Super uncommon.
Yeah, it's super uncommon because I got a call from my agent. He was like, "We need to hurry up on your listing because they just accepted your offer." And I was
Wow.
like, okay. I was like, "Get that thing sold," and we made it work.
Yeah.
But I felt so bad for that couple because pictures, and then when we sold that house, we did great because we had great pictures, we had staged well.
Make
we had
a huge
good
difference, huh?
kitchen, it sold in, it was actually under contract in 10 days, and that offer fell through. And but then it was about 50 days when we closed, or 60 days maybe when we closed. So I mean, we were able to.
That's incredible.
Yeah.
Super fast for short. So any ahas from anything we talked about so far? Sweet, share one or two if you don't mind.
discussion about how to commission, because I think that totally eliminates the problem that so many agents are struggling with right now in the face of settlement information. Because you're not worrying about the buyer's agent commission. You're just saying my commission is 6%.
Right.
If you could get your buyers to sign on, your sellers to sign on with 6%, then it's good.
They're covered. Yep. And I also really want to double side that if I can. And it's not a secret. You definitely can double side a commission.
Okay.
And what we're not supposed to do is limited agency and represent both. Now it's an inherent conflict of interest, although completely legal and ethical in Utah. Our broker dean does not like it, and I
don't like it
agree. I
either.
see, you know.
I
For
feel-
me, it's pretty simple, and I have done it before, and actually have done it here. And Dean was like, "Oh, okay, Kammon, trust you." He was super nice about it, right? But I didn't realize that we weren't supposed to do it here. I'd done it at my last brokerage. I let clients know, like, hey, and if I happen to bring my own buyer, the only difference is I can't tell you if they won the lottery, right? It's just I can't tell you all you can't tell them is their negotiating position. That's it. So I can talk to both sides. I can take in information, and I can just help them write the offer. And I just have to be a limited agent. I can't tell them anything about the other side. I can still say, hey, you got a great house for what these are going for. Can't tell you anything about the buyer that I might know, but I would probably, stick hard with this because of this house and this house, but not because of anything I know about the buyer. And I wouldn't keep bringing that up. But yeah, so I feel like I'm good with it, but I do understand it's an inherent conflict of interest. We would get paid more, but obviously both sides want the same thing. All of us want the same thing. We want the house to sell. We want it to go under contract, right?
So you double sign, what's the difference?
So now on a double-sided commission, I have them sign an unrepresented buyer agreement. And now I keep what would have been a buyer's agent commission. Yeah, they're just unrepresented. They get zero benefit for being unrepresented. And if they say, hey, I'm coming because I want a 3% discount on unrepresented, then I can chat with them and I will definitely explain and say, oh, shoot, I wish it worked that way for this commission, but actually our brokerage has a commission agreement with the seller and it doesn't pay anything to an unrepresented buyer. I don't want to encourage them to always be unrepresented, but I will let them know, hey, I'm happy to go to bat for you. Yeah, somebody that doesn't have an agent, right? Yeah, I'm a listing agent. Let's say you're an unrepresented buyer. You call me and say, Kammon, hey, I'm unrepresented. I don't have an agent. I love the house and I want to save 3% because I don't have an agent. And I say, oh gosh, I'm so happy you love the house. And we have a conversation and I try to build some rapport and get an emotional connection with you. And I say, hey, by the way, just so you understand how the commissions work on this, we're not offering any commission at all to an unrepresented buyer. So the commission is just with the listing brokerage, and that's not even me. I'm just the agent. It's with the listing brokerage and the seller. So you don't automatically get a 3%. But guess what, Eric? I am happy to go to the seller and present your offer and go to bat for you and do the very best I can to help you get the home. And that's not hurting the seller, right? I want to help them get the home and I want to help the seller sell it. Like I'm not going to tell them anything about the seller's negotiating position. And in that case, if Erica does say, well, I won 20 million in the lottery, and if they had one, I can say, oh, wow, so good for you, and I could potentially sell. I personally won't still give away negotiating power because I'm still in that go-between situation, unless my seller specifically asks. But I want to be ethical and fair to all parties. I won't go tell personal information to either side. So
Not all agents are that way.
yeah. I still have to have a fiduciary duty though to my seller, right? In that case, I still want to get them the absolute best deal. And I'm going to give her that unrepresented buyer representation form to sign so that she knows I'm negotiating against you. I'm going to be nice and fair and ethical and all that. But I am going to, if she tells me, stuff that's going to help my seller's negotiating position, we'll use that to our advantage.
Do you see many unrepresented buyers?
Sometimes, yeah.
It is
Yeah.
this one had like a handful.
Nice. Did you pick any of them up as clients? Nice. How many exciting. That's awesome. They say for every listing, you can potentially pick up at least two. They say at least two. I think at least one. Yeah.
At least four. That.
Yeah, I love it.
I still have
Well, this is your street, so you should get 10.
Oh, yeah.
That's exciting. So you got a buyer out of it.
Actually, two. Actually.
Nice.
But I need, like, maybe I could chat with you afterwards about good ways to talk to people afterward. Like, I've been following up with text and phone calls, but just moving forward. So after.
Nice. Yeah, cool. Let's do it. Well, our ahas were more about negotiating our commission and not necessarily the other, but it's still part of negotiation. I'm good with it.
Mentioned the importance of calling, you're gonna submit an offer,
Mhm.
because if there's two things to change or negotiate, price and terms. Terms can be such a big deal if you know
Right.
what they are, your example of the they're. Like what Courtney was sharing about her listing, it was really not necessarily the price, the highest price, it was the terms. So
Yeah.
learning
Yeah,
what
super
that
important.
is.
Yeah, and the only way you can learn what terms are important is if you call them and ask, right? Sometimes they'll list some things in the agent comments that, agents don't read, but I've had offers and I'm always blown away, especially if it's a multiple offer situation where they just submit an offer, text me, hey, sent you an offer, text me back, hey, thanks. Like now I got to go through and read it. Now, who's this from? Now, what, and try to, and then I'll put it in a spreadsheet. Now, all they are is a number. I'm human. I'm human too, right? If I get an agent that calls me and, oh my gosh, they love it. And the dad just did this and, and I get emotional too. I'm like, oh man, I would love for you guys to get it, like here's where I would be or whatever. And plus, I've had a couple of like big time agents that I've done deals with lately that are, man, they're fantastic working on the buy side. And one of them we closed the house and he was so good. Like he's like, and one of the reasons he's good is he's looking for one when he's a KW guy. And he calls and, hey, awesome house, man, and here's my client, this is what we got. And he's telling me all about it. We love the house, want to work it out. And we already had friendship because of he's bought some of my other listings with other clients and I knew how good he was to work with. And during the process, house was listed at 668. We dropped it a little and I felt like we were a little under maybe where we need to be. They offered full price, got it. Appraisal came in at 622. What do you think happened? Yeah. And what do you think how it turned out? Who? They were. He called me and sent me a thing. Hey, don't blow me up for this. He said, I know it's a bogus appraisal. He said, so does my client. He had educated his client and set expectations. You're doing a VA loan. And just understand the VA appraisers are a different animal and they oftentimes come in low. He said, but this is a fantastic house. I can show you why. Here are all the comps. It's been completely redone. He, had gone through all that. So when it came in at 622, 46,000 less, his client didn't, go into shock. I'm not buying it unless it's at 622. We closed at 668. And I knew he was an awesome agent. We talked about it. And I said, hey, guess what? My sellers agree. The appraisal is bogus. We're willing to keep it at the same price, right? He'd already said that. And they did ask to take it down to 650. And I said, hey, we both agree the appraisal is bogus. So do my clients. Let's keep the price at the 668. They said, and they are willing to do these concessions for the due diligence stuff. And we gave them some concessions on our due diligence and we closed. But it was concessions they probably would have gotten anyway because it was kind of a flip rehab and there were some things we missed on it. So, oh, and we're offering 2.5%. They're close friends of mine. It's probably the 7th or 8th deal I've done with them. And they asked if they could do it at 5%. And I said, yes. And I said, we'll split it evenly. And so we did. And this guy, the agent called me and he asked me all the questions, told me about the house or told me about his client. Yeah, we're going to split it over. He said, oh, by the way, is this 3% commission? He said, I've shown a lot. Actually, it's not. It's 2.5. It's 5% listing. And we talked about it. He's like, oh, okay. He said, well, are your clients good with a 3% commission? I said, I can ask them, and so I said, why don't you send over the escrow instructions? And so he did. And I talked to my clients and said, it's up to you. They're like, that's dumb. He won't take the 2.5. I said, it's not that he won't. He's just asking for this. And said, if something goes awry, might be good to have him on our side. And I think partly because we paid him that, he was able to talk his client to sticking with it at an appraisal that was a lot less. So, and I think he still represented his client well. So, let's move on. 3 P's. Anybody guess what they are? Guess again. Prepare, present, position. So preparing, I think, really is key to building confidence and making sure that it's a smooth process as you're negotiating. So there's a lot of work we do in preparing. Who can read the second one for me?
Present, move into the negotiation process by presenting the offer.
Amy, the third.
Move both parties closer until you have full agreement.
Cool. So in this section, we'll go into a little more depth on each of these. Maybe. I don't know why I'm pointing the screen. I guess the computer's there. Oh, it's changing on there, but it's not changing on the screen. Let's see. We already went like way past it. There we go. Is it on there now? Yep. Sweet. Some things you need to know when you're preparing. What goal do you need to know? Yeah, for sure.
Well, I guess your goal is to get the property. Like right now, the clients want this property, but they're not like, it's not the only property. So if they don't get the price and terms they want, they're fine to move on.
Mhm.
So I guess really your goal is, in this case, get the price and terms that we want.
Nice. Think ahead. How do we do that? What are we thinking ahead about? Potential, I don't know, obstacles? Like you have carpet that's completely worn out and has wrinkles in it, and I don't know, you already know that they may ask for something like that. It's an older home, so you know there might be things that come up in like say the inspection report. So that's part of setting the expectations. I'm thinking ahead, and now I'm setting their expectations. Hey, this is a beautiful house. It was built in 1955, so clearly there are probably going to be things that aren't up to code that were then, and they may ask for some of those things just for safety reasons, and we kind of want to be prepared for that, and so you can help clients set expectations that way. Uh-huh.
Like anticipate stuff, so like you're saying, like, then we say, what would you want to do in case, like, here's a likely scenario, what are we gonna do if this happens? Or do you just like?
I usually bring things up, yeah, especially things that are obvious. When I'm doing that consult and telling them, trying to try my best to see through the eyes of a buyer. Like, hey, if I'm a buyer, I might be concerned about this. It's a 4-foot drop off and you don't have a railing. I have a 4-year-old and I might be concerned she's gonna, so let's be ready if they ask for a railing. We just know that's a safety item that you're probably gonna have to take care of. I don't know. And I kind of set the expectation of whether I think they need to take care of it. You mentioned your water heater was leaking a little bit, but it's still working fine. The inspector's probably going to see that it's leaking and let them know that it's time for replacement. And those are about, last one I saw, I think was $1,500. And then, some, maybe a little bit of labor on top of that. And so I'd be kind of prepared for that. And I don't know. So if there's something that's obvious that they tell me, then I try to my best to prepare them for it, I guess. I don't know. Did you have anything specific in mind? Before I submit one or receive one? Yeah, before I submit one, and I'm on the buy side, I let them know like, hey, I let my buyers know like when we get an inspection, hey, just understand this he's fantastic. It's an inspector I recommend or whatever. I'll say, just know that you're paying them $500 to tell you anything that could be wrong with the home. That doesn't mean it actually is, but they're going to make you aware of anything and everything they can. they want to earn their keep. They want to earn their money, right? So think of this list as kind of a to-do list as you live in the home. Unless there's safety items, then I'd recommend, or safety or expensive things, then I'd recommend we kind of think of it as a nice to-do list that you can have and be aware of and make some improvements as you live there. And then the safety items, why don't we just ask for those? And they may or may not be able to accommodate, all those requests. So that was a buy side if I'm making an offer. Yeah, I let them know that we're hiring the inspector and they're going to create this nice list for us. And just remember, you are paying them to tell you anything they can see wrong with the house, right? You're paying them for that. The house may be great. And by the way, my inspectors usually say, hey, this is a great house. And, there's this and this. And my inspectors never tell them that, they never throw their opinion on whether they should buy the house or not. All they do is present information that they find. And that's all any inspector should do. They should not be a part of negotiations. They should not be a part of whether the buyer decides to buy the house. The foundation could be cracked and falling apart, and the inspector shouldn't say, I wouldn't buy this house. That is none of their business. They're not the buyer. They don't know the situation like you do. They should say, hey, foundation's cracked. We'd recommend that you have somebody come look at the foundation, a foundation specialist. Right. So, yeah, so that's how I prep them on the buy side. And then on the sell side, I prep them too. Hey, they're likely going to ask for some things. They typically do. They're probably going to be safety things. And we should probably do our best to take care of those safety items. So, obey laws kind of goes without saying. Know the documents inside and out. You guys know your documents inside and out now?
Nope.
Working on that, right?
Yep.
Well, if it makes you feel any better, I don't feel like I know them inside and out either.
They just changed
Sometimes
them
have
all,
to.
so,
Yeah.
like,
Do we have the new ones now for the listing and buyer? They're not on DocuSign then, is it?
I don't know.
Oh, I don't use the MLS. I use our DocuSign. So say sorry, Dean. It's on DocuSign. You gotta update it. All right. Somebody read through this for me. Ask the right questions.
Negotiate on. Provides insight on where you and your client will have leverage. Sets clear expectation. Allows you to get to know your client and their goal. Helps you to learn what will make it a win-win negotiation for both parties.
So on a basic level, what are the two types of questions that you can think of? Yeah, open-ended questions and closed questions. That's the way I see it too. So open-ended questions would be something that allows a response. You're not trying to take them anywhere with that response. That's why it says it's unlimited. How do you feel about that? Or what makes you say that? Or what's important to you about closing in that time frame? How do you, those types of things are good open-ended questions. If you ask them close-ended questions, then you better be looking for a specific answer and only want to know one thing. And maybe in this case, you're leading them somewhere, but I feel like they never are great questions unless they're tie downs. You know what a tie down is? It's what you want, right? Yeah, it's almost like you talk about it and yeah, like I don't know, we call it a tie down when you remind them of, whatever you mentioned that you needed to sell your house within 30 days. That's what you want, right? And you're looking for a yes. So I use closing questions just for like tie downs. And some of these are good to know. You have to sell your house by a specific date. Good to know. It's not a bad question. You will ask some questions, but the only difference in, I guess actually I still wouldn't ask it this way. If you're asking, do you have to sell it by a specific date? Yes. Right.
Yeah.
Then you can follow up. Okay, well, what date do you need to sell by? And then what makes you need to sell by that? And then you can start asking some opening questions, and you will ask some closing questions, sometimes on accident. And this isn't a bad one. What's the bottom line price you would consider? I personally don't always ask that one because I don't want them to feel like that's what I'm trying to do is get their bottom price for them, but you could obviously ask them. What would happen if and what is important to you? You guys ever ask this?
What happens if we don't sell in 30 days?
Yeah. What happens if I bring in an offer in the first 5 days? and they want to move in 21, is that, you feel like that would be too quick for you? Is that, and there's a close-ended question along with it, right? Is that something you feel like would be a good situation for you? What is important to you? Yeah, these are fantastic questions because it helps them consider. And it also, the first one, what would happen if, is really something that helps them gain more clarity, right? And then what is important to you really helps establish an emotional connection with them, which you want. Okay, work with a partner, read the scenario. Funny thing is we don't have the scenario. Let's clarifying questions so we can make one up, and then we could do it together. A couple of you guys could role play, or we could get partners. What do you guys prefer? We have an odd number, so I can role play with somebody, and then two people can role play. What's the scenario? Anybody have one?
How about this? Trying to sign a new buyer,
Okay.
so it's a negotiating scenario. You have to sign them on to a 3% commission.
Mhm.
They're negotiating as buyer's agent.
Mhm.
So,
Is it? Okay. Well, Amy, let's pretend like we already have a strong emotional connection. We've built some trust, and we're talking about whatever house it is that you want to buy, and then it comes to signing the commission agreement. And Amy, here's a commission agreement. I just need you to sign and date each page. This shows what our brokerage charges and how commissions work.
Oh. So you're wanting me to pay 3%?
Yeah, so that's what our
As the
brokerage
buyer.
charges. Yeah, you typically don't have to pay it. That's just what our brokerage charges for the buyer's agent commission. And actually, the $3.95 fee there too is a transaction fee for the brokerage, and that takes care of the transaction coordinator. So, yep, it's 3%. It's generally paid for by the seller. They usually offer a buyer's agent commission, but if for some reason they don't, then it would change closing costs. And then I can obviously let you know if there's a house that doesn't. Typically, they do cover it though.
So is that negotiable? Because, I'm hoping to save a little money here. Just wondering if there's any negotiable terms with that.
Amy, how about if it somehow, if they don't cover that full amount, how about I not charge you? We'll make sure that whatever they take care of is what I get paid. Because I feel like I'm a good enough negotiator that we can work that out on the other side, and you don't have to pay me anything out of pocket, and yet our brokerage commission will be paid during the transaction. How does that sound?
Wow, that sounded really good. I don't quite understand what you meant by that.
Oh, yeah. Sorry, are we at a roll now?
No, yeah.
Oh, are we
for
in
real,
roll?
like,
Well, let's stay
what
in
you
roll
said
then.
sounded really good. But so you're saying,
I mean, I'm basically saying that I want to take care of you. My top priority is to take care of you as a buyer. I know you mentioned this is your first home, and I understand that it's a big thing to save for. So I don't want you to have to pay anything out of pocket, and yet we have to have an agreement in place for me to even be able to legally get out and open doors and show you homes. And my rate is 3%. That's what I charge, and I'm happy to negotiate that on the sell side. Typically, if they don't cover all that, then yes, it would come back and it would change your closing costs. I think where this is kind of your first home, I can understand if it's a 2.5 or something like that, that you wouldn't need to come out of your own pocket for it. I'll work with what they have to offer, but this also allows me to negotiate with them if for some reason they're not offering one. The bottom line is I don't want you to lose the house worried about some extra dollars that you're going to pay me.
really nice. Yeah, I'm still trying to decide if I want to be with an agent or go on my own.
Interesting. You didn't mention that before. Tell me what makes you want to consider being on your own.
Sounds like I might be able to get my price down a bit because I won't have that 3% extra.
Hmm. So you're thinking that the
So-
price will come down. What if they're not offering an agent commission on that one? Would that help with your price? Yeah. Well, if they're not offering an agent commission on one, like I just mentioned, that wouldn't be something that they would reduce the price for either. Are you pretty familiar with the Utah real estate contracts then and negotiating offers and how the process works? Do you feel pretty confident there? Or do you feel like you need some guidance along the way? Okay. Yeah, and some people do feel a little bit more comfortable with contracts and they work in that kind of scenario, or they're attorneys, and sometimes I can see why they do. And actually most attorneys, I'm doing a deal with an attorney right now. I represent them because although she's an attorney, she doesn't do real estate every day. So we kind of know the nuances, the insides and outs of the contracts and of how the agreements work. So we'll be out of roll there unless you want me to finish something else. Okay. And I did fumble a little bit. I'm like, oh, okay, I wasn't expecting that after I thought we were just commissions. And so that was good. I was like, oh yeah, I guess we need to talk about that.
See how you.
I
handle
heard
those
somebody
kind of things.
else's on that same topic, and they basically said to the objection of what if they don't offer the full 3% on the seller side?
Mm-hmm.
And what their response was, as long as they offer over 2%, I am good to accept that. from the-
So what if they only offer 1%?
Then I would ask you to come up with the other.
Or, I like what Cam's saying, I can negotiate that. I think I'm a good enough negotiator with that, with the seller. Then
Mhm.
I'm like, oh my gosh, you're an awesome negotiator, I wanna work with you.
Yeah.
So that's like, selling.
Yeah, that was my only thought. I hate to give numbers because if it's 2.75, I'll still negotiate it with them because I have a contract for 3, right? I'm not going to say if it's over 2, I'm good. Now I'm worth 2, right? Well, why don't we just sign it for 2? I want to make sure that if I'm the buyer, I might say, well, let's sign it for 2 so we're all covered, and I get it if they don't offer that much, right? So I don't know. That's my only thought, Dave. I do. So this is new, right? I don't have a strip for that. I just was trying to think through it, and
Yeah.
like that's all brand new. I don't know. You haven't had to typically go through, that sort of thing. And I think a lot of buyers being, pretty new will just expect. Most people don't expect something for free. They understand that the money's coming from somewhere. They know that you're a professional, and they want you to get paid. I've had buyers that were a seller. I said, hey, just so you know, they're offering 2.5. If you're okay, we can. Or actually, I've done this before. Hey, they're offering 2.5, so we'll go back, and then they've responded back, and like a for sale by owner, we're not paying, the agent whatever this commission. And I had clients like walk away. I'm like, guys, don't walk away from me. I want you to get the house if you like the house. Nope, we don't want to deal with people like that. Okay, where they're on your side and they want you to, get paid.
So, this scenario, are you signing the document for 2.5?
No, 3.
Three.
Yep, I never have signed one for 2.5 ever. I don't intend to start now. And the reason I said I could potentially take less, and I have had a client pay out for my commission on the buy side. He was a sales guy too. He wanted to, and he knew it was only 2.5, and he just, said he would pay out the rest. And I told him like, look, I don't expect you to make up the difference. And the seller was really hard. They were a tricky one. So I just knew, hey, I'll probably make 2.5 on this. And he ended up paying the rest on it. So normally I'm not going to the seller. Normally I'm going to the seller's agent. And it just depends on how it's listed. If they're listed at 2.5, then I'll mention it as I talk to them. And hey, don't want this to be a sticking point or anything, but I do have a 3% agreement with them, so we'll plan to send over the brokerage payment addendum with it. I don't do the escrow instructions because I want seller to see it and I want buyer to see it. This top agent did for me. I was so surprised. He sent escrow instructions. Escrow instructions are between agents and broker. And he told me, I don't want my buyer to see this or think that I'm worried just about my commission. I said, I get it. But then it just comes to me. I don't even have, you're just asking me to give up on my side, and I'm not willing to give up my commission for you. Sorry. But he's like, well, if you can ask your sellers and get them, if they're good with the escrow instructions, sellers don't have to sign it, just we do, and our broker. But on a brokerage payment addendum, that addendum is the one that I send because my buyers will sign it along with the offer. Sometimes I don't even mention to my buyers that it's commissions left. We already talked about that, and they know that if it's less, then we'll throw in the brokerage payment addendum. It's at 2%. So the brokerage payment addendum says, in addition to any other compensation that's already being offered, seller agrees to pay 1%, and I'll put a 1 in there, 1%, and then we'll send that along with the offer. And now it's a 3%. So yeah, well, and most buyers won't. If you think about it, most buyers, I mean, they're paying for a home warranty and appraisal. If it's a first time home, like they've saved up money to get down, at least 3.5% down for a home, and homes aren't cheap. Yeah, and managing their expectations, because I think if most buyers thought, I've got to pay 3% for an agent, that's almost equal to my 3.5 down payment for an FHA loan. Like that feels expensive, right? But on the other side, I think we've got to take care of it on the listing side. Don't list a home without in my opinion, I won't list a home. I'll say, I can't tell you what to do. I won't list a home without a buyer agent commission. And the seller can say, well, I don't want to pay a buyer agent commission. I can say, I don't blame you. I was tired and didn't feel like showering this morning. And yet there are some things that are in my very best interest, right? And if we can give more exposure by offering to all these agents that have thousands of the buyers, if we can give more exposures by offering that commission and compensating them, then your chances of selling for more money go way up. We definitely could try to sell without a buyer's agent commission. If you're somebody that's, say in your scenario, like, oh, I'll just do 3% on my side. We could try to do that, but here's that scenario and this is what it looks like. And just expect that you may get a lot less than 3% less for your home than you would if you had it open to all buyers. Just know that none of them are going to work for free, that they will ask for commission. So I think it's in your best interest, from what you've told me, to get your home sold for the most, because you said that was important, to offer buyer's agent commission.
Yeah.
But if I'm the listing agent and I have 6%, I'm willing to offer half of my own commission. I don't have to leave it up to the seller to think he's paying extra. I don't want my seller to ever feel like they're paying extra for a buyer's agent. Technically, that's, I can have that money come from my commission. If I charge 6%, I'm going to let my seller know and ask them if that's okay with them. That I offer 3%, and I'm doing that for them so that it can be,
Yeah,
marketed to the most people possible.
that'll be my takeaway.
Glad somebody has. I love it. Let's see. We were supposed to do a scenario, and now we're gonna skip it because I don't know what it is. But we just did a couple, right? Oh yeah, I had to role play it. You guys need to role play some of this stuff. Here you go. Somebody read this. Best practices when submitting an offer. All right, stop there. Call the other agent. Number one, right? If you don't call the other agent, you won't find out any other information than what thousands of people have on the MLS. What are voice cues or pauses, do you guys think? How would it sound, and what would it mean? Okay.
Is this maybe you're the buyer's agent calling a listing agent?
Yeah, usually this means you're the buyer's agent calling.
They might not want to tell you they're going for divorce to sell it.
Mm-hmm.
They might. But yeah, something to kind of a red flag.
Yeah, if there's and also if there's hey, this is my offer. We're gonna be 30,000 below. But these are great buyers. They're fantastic. We want this to be a win-win. We feel like it might be overpriced, and the agent's like, it might have to do with your offer. It might have to do with a lot of things, and it's the conversation of don't keep talking. Some agents keep talking and say, I'm so sorry. I know it's a low offer because, and I try to tell them to come up. Are you doing your clients any favors there?
No, that goes
No.
back to the.
So present your offer and keep quiet. It's my favorite one up there. Keep quiet once you present. And I think it's my favorite because I have a problem talking too much sometimes. Next one, sorry I stopped you, Ivan. Listen carefully.
What is important for the party? All of the facts, focus on the and keep it off the best.
Yeah, don't take this stuff personal. It's
No.
really and truly not. It is a guy or gal that's negotiating for their client, you're negotiating for yours, and you're trying to keep in mind that you want to have a win-win scenario. And a win-win is a house getting sold for everybody. That's not a commission thing, that's a buyer seller thing. They want the house, they're offering on it. The seller obviously wants to sell, they listed it already. So the focus on the customer's needs parts is where I would ask what's important here other than price. What are the most important things to your seller? And give your offer the best chance. I think you do by doing all that. I don't know how else. Sure. You betcha, Erica. This one? Sure. And if you guys need all these slides, I can just send them to you too. Oh, I love it. You're translating the whole time. Nice, Erica.
Usually, sometimes I just go to English, but usually I'm like.
Yeah, I have to think to try to think of how to say that in Spanish.
Speak Spanish?
I used to speak fairly well and not as much anymore. I lived in El Salvador for 2 years, served a mission down there. So, oh, too fast again. Oh, I think that goes along with all the other things that it's saying. To give your offer the best chance, you got to somehow, you got to call the agent, right? You got to build rapport. You got to pay attention to what they're saying about their client and listen. And then once you present your offer, you got to stop talking and allow them to digest it and give you their feedback. And okay, that's good to know. Let me talk to my client about that. Or hey, that's great feedback. And but ultimately you want to have some sort of relation with the listing agent because you want to have them want to answer your call. You want to have them think, oh, this person is competent. They're willing to listen. They're taking stuff back. They complimented me. I like them. You want have some kind of an agreement or some kind of a connection with this listing agent if you can, because you're looking for a win-win scenario and you always stay calm and focus on what they're saying they need. And then in your customers' needs too, right? And I think the last one's just give it your best chance by doing these other things. At least that's the way I read it. I don't know if you guys see it any differently. Then chime in. So this one is part of the last one, right? The position. Acknowledge and affirm common ground. Ask what and how questions. Know what position he is in the process. Know when to walk away. So this other agent I was telling you about on this divorce deal, he's a really good agent, and he was rookie of the year, I think, in Salt Lake County some years back. I only know because my uncle told me about him, or my wife's uncle was talking about how great he was. He hadn't used him, but he had interviewed with him, and luckily, ultimately, I got a listing with him. But so I'd heard about this agent, and we were under contract, and then he comes back and says, and there are tenants in the property. We got to have this thing sold by the 18th. Then I found out it's actually the 21st, but they're going to close on the 9th. And so he knows there's tenants there. We had to schedule showings around him. And so he says, hey, we'll close on the 9th. I guess he didn't even think about the tenants. I don't know. So I called him back and said, hey, I want you to know that I'm not sure if you're aware, I can't remember if we discussed it, but the tenants will be there. They have to be out by the 15th. So I was like, oh, shoot, that might change things. And well, let me know what your clients think. If they're good to close on the 9th, I think that's probably best, but we'll, and they could be out earlier. I don't know, but their last day they have to be out. So he talked to his clients and he came back and said, "Hey, we got to move our date to the 16th. We don't want to inherit tenants." I said, "I don't blame you. I'll talk to my clients and see what they say." Well, they sent us an addendum that said they would close the 16th instead of the 9th. Well, then I found out the tenants are moving out this weekend on Sunday. And he said, "Oh, okay." He said, "Well, my client wants to," this is on an email, and I don't know why, but he has his client on the email to me and with title. And I don't know if I've ever seen that before. He's copying his client on. So I don't know if his client, Charlie, is really just wants to be a part of everything or if that's normal. It's not for me. So he sends me this email back and says, "Hey, we'd like to stick with this addendum too, and give ourselves a little bit of cushion." So I'm like, that is weird. Like now they're leaving, they were leaving the 15th, so you're going to close 16th. Now they're leaving the 29th and you want to close the 16th still? Like, at least tell me what's going on. I want to make sure I understand everything. Are you guys having some trouble or what? So I sent him a text and I said, "Shall tell you what I said so I don't embellish it." I'll tell you real quickly. Holy cow, 12 texts. Divorced couples are hard. For people going through something. Sorry, hope that's not hard for any of you guys. I know they're very common. It's just, it's hard when you're still working with that person through it. I can't imagine. So I said, let's see. I said, "Hey, Wes," it's Wes Goldberg. I don't care if you know who the agent is. "Do you feel like extending 7 days when the tenants will be out 17 days earlier than we planned is the right move? Would you rather extend due diligence a day or two and have cushion there?" So I wasn't trying to be pushy. I'm just like, is that really the route you want to go? Like, is that what's best for the transaction? He calls me right away. He's like, "Dude," he's like, "I didn't feel like it was the best move." He's like, "I'm trying to help my client understand." And, he's like, "I totally get it. With that shouldn't change our settlement date. So I'll talk to him." And I offered up, like, what about, extended due diligence a day or two? You said you wanted to see it after the tenants moved out. I get that. I think that's an easy sell with my clients. And I say that sometimes to other agents. Hey, I think I can sell my clients on that. It's not to try to not do something good for my clients. It's just to let the other agent know, hey, I'm working to try to make this a win-win. And I'll tell my clients, hey, I might, say I'm going to try to sell my client on that. And just know I'm saying that so that this agent knows that I'm trying to work with them. And I've said that, I don't mind saying that in front of my clients. I let them know like why I'm saying it. So I just say that to say, ask questions, if they're saying, hey, we need to bump this back or, hey, we need this, like, okay, tell me what makes you think that, or what was your client's reasoning for that, and open-ended questions that help them go to the next level. Look at that, another scenario. Any other ahas you want to share? Man, I go way too slow through these. We're almost done. We still haven't done the 45 minutes of calling.
I feel like the keep quiet once you present the offer is really big, because if you send your offer and they're like, they make a face or whatever, and you automatically go, "Oh, but I could change it if you want." Like, you just lose power in the negotiation. Like,
Yeah,
keep quiet until they make sense of it.
it's a great thought. Yeah, you can definitely read that if it happens to be somebody at the office and you're in person. That might be a little harder to do. Sometimes it's a little easier on the phone, especially when I have a crap offer I have to present. I'm like, oh, I don't know if this is the right offer. And you try to negotiate with your buyer, and they're like, "Nope, submit it." Like, hey, got an offer for you. And that gets anybody excited that you got an offer, even if it's a junk offer. So, yeah, great thought, Ivan.
How often when you present the offer, do you change it after you get a feel for how that will go?
I don't always present it first. Sometimes I will say this, hey, my clients did tell me this is kind of what they have in mind. I haven't written it up yet, but just so you know, this is where they think they're going to be. Then I can get an idea, and if they give pushback and say, there are already two more offers, like I would not come in there, then I'd say, thank you. Where do I need to be? And one of these top agents that I just finished closing a deal with, man, he's good. He would always corner me and ask me like, "Help me out, Cam. Where do we need to be?" And if it's multiple offers, I'll talk to my client, say, hey, I've got an agent asking, like, do you want me to share with them? We've got 10 offers. They want to know if they can beat it. You want me to have them blindly submit an offer, or can I kind of share with them where you need them to be? I'm like, hey, our offer is here. And if you want to go 3,000 higher than that, they may accept yours. And so he just works on talking to the agent. He calls me. He closed 45 buyers and I think 17 sellers last year. So he does a ton of business, and he's got, one transaction coordinator and one assistant. That's it. He's out showing all his own homes. And so it was a ton of houses. And I'm just always impressed with him. And he's a smooth talker, right? And yeah, anyway, I guess my point is he always is reaching out to figure out and find the common ground. And look, just tell me where I need to be. We want the house, And I didn't start doing that with other people. I just assume, hey, we don't share what the other offers are. But I'll ask every agent now when I'm calling, especially if there's another offer on the house. Oh, okay, where's that offer? Can you tell me where I need to be? Like, what is it? What is it looking like? And are there any other terms I need to be concerned about? And agents try to kind of hem haw around, and if they say I can't share that, you're right. If you haven't asked your client, you probably shouldn't. Can you ask your client for me? I'd like to know if they'd be willing to share that with us so we can decide. Because it's up to their client, not to them. If they get pushback on that, say, well, it's up to you, but I think your client ought to have a say in whether they want to share that or not. I'm telling you that we would like to beat it if we can. So I don't know.
That's basically, like, can you give a range? Can you say, oh, I'm push it into this range without asking your client, or?
I would ask my client on where I could be with it. I don't like to share anything without asking them. And I would ask them, hey, can I share a range with them? Is it okay if I share where we are? Can I give them, hints about, where we want them to be? And clients are usually like, yeah, tell them. Like, yeah, or they may ask you. And I could say, well, we have 3 offers and they're all almost the same. If I can, and we've already done multiple offers, this is where they are. Now we kind of need to negotiate with one of them. I would, tell them where the other ones are on the one that we like the most and see if they'll come up higher. So
When you're making an offer on a home that has been sitting on the market for a while, so it's not a multiple offer situation, how do you know how aggressive to be on, you don't want to insult anybody with an offer that's too low, but are you just asking the agent, are you just calling and kind of feeling that out? Yeah.
Well, so I run my own comps. If we're going to make an offer, you can do it pretty quick, right? Go 1 square mile and 500 to 1,000 square feet higher and lower, same 2-story or same Rambler within the same age range, right? Maybe 10 years either way, or if it's older, maybe 20 years either way, or if it's pretty new, 5 years either way. Like, you just kind of get a feel for that stuff. And then I can see, like, right where it is, like, oh, this one's actually priced below right now. And it's just been up for a little while. Maybe there's something quirky about it. We saw it. We didn't think so. And we know that, I think the appraisal is going to be right there. Actually, you're probably going to have some equity walking into this. Yeah, whether it's been there a while or not. I had one in Lehigh that was listed at 640. I looked at the comps and I was like, this is at least 660. They had 20 showings the first weekend. We made an offer right away. And he was like, do we offer over? I said, that's tough. The value's there. You could. I said, and yet it's me just telling you that I probably would just offer full price and see if there are any other offers. I know there aren't right now. So I would do that. People have been slower to offer right now in this market, and even amazing houses are taking a week or two before they get an offer. So we put an offer in, that Sunday. We say came out Saturday for showings. They had 20 the first day. And anyway, we got it at 640. And then it did appraise much higher than that. I think it was close to 660. We then after we got it under contract, we added 14,500 in closing costs for us so that he could buy down the rate. And he said, you said it's probably there. I said, I think so. So we added that on, and the seller's agent just said, well, if it's not there, then you need to take it back down. I said, we totally understand. We just want to try to get. We added, yeah. So instead of 640, now we're 654.5, and he's got 14.5 in closing costs, knowing that the value's there in the home. And then the seller didn't care. They got their full asking price. The agent put it at a price that it would sell in this market. And so, sorry, a little bit of a tangent there.
See what the value
Oh, yes, that's where we were. Yeah, I check comps. If we're gonna offer on a house, and we'll check comps. If it's just a blowout, like I know it's worth more, all that, we can write an offer and, find out, call the agent, see how much activity or whatever. And I try not to be too nosy about that, but I'll ask them like, so you're getting some good activity on this? Looks like a great house, and just kind of see what they'll tell me. And some people just spill everything to you, and then others are a little bit more closed.
What
So
do you do if someone comes to you? If you're getting a lot of activity.
yeah, we're getting a ton. I'm glad you asked. I don't know. Yeah. I don't spill everything though. I'm definitely more reserved because I don't want to hurt my client's negotiating position. Or if we haven't had a lot of activity like one I had, so gosh, yeah, to be totally honest, we were overpriced in the beginning by 20,000. And now I think we're under. So we've been getting a ton of showings now that we did a $25,000 drop. And now I think we're actually underpriced. And so, I can share that with them if it helps my clients. So we were at 620, we went to 600, now we're at 575. So I think we're well under, we're on the very low end of the comps. So I think it'd be a great deal for anybody to walk in and buy.
Negotiation at your world with the construction.
What's that? What about new construction? Um, so can you negotiate it? Yeah, some builders will. I think most will. They want to sell a house, and when a builder finishes a house, that's money that they can be putting into the next properties to keep. They want to keep things turning. Builders hate inventory. Those are the best. Yeah, a spec home is what you're referring to that's already built is usually the best one to negotiate on. When you're starting, then you're agreeing to a price up front. That's hard to negotiate, right? Hard to negotiate when you're, yep. Right. Yeah. Well, so you've already signed the price. You've already agreed to it before it's built. But on a spec home, builders do not like inventory to sit. So if there are spec homes that are just sitting, especially if they're publicly traded companies, they're going to try to start, they'll just start lowering the price on those. Or you can go in with, a price and see how they respond. We've gotten some that were quite a bit under. So, and then I have had some that we offered on like during the building process, and then comps went down, prices went down. This is a couple years ago. So we went back to the builder and said, hey, look, your one similar to this just went down. We need our price down. Like, well, you've already signed at this price. I get it, but we'd rather lose the earnest money than buy something 50,000 under value right now. And we'll walk from the 2,500 bucks and, well, let me talk to the supervisor, and they'll, I've had them even come down after we're under contract. So I think it depends on the builder and what the market's doing. So, but yeah, they're negotiable most of the time unless you're building and doing everything the way you want. Skip that. Any other thoughts about today? We're going to be done just a little bit early, I think. Oh, no, these are good questions. Ahas to achievement. So each of these classes that you attend, they're supposed to help you grow in how you think, feel, and act, right? So how has your thinking changed today? Anything in particular? What ideas or mindsets were new? Or maybe there weren't any new ones for you today, but most of this stuff should help change your mindset on how you approach things.
Yeah, my aha for the day is about my negotiation for commission. Because did that for the first time this week, and I need to fine tune.
Nice. That's a great one. Cool. So you feel a little bit differently about how you did it or how you're going to do it. Anything else that you guys feel differently about after chatting today, or that is more meaningful to you?
How much a phone call could help you? Just one 5-10 minute phone call with an agent could really like make or break.
Yeah, so true. Yep. Yeah, Erica?
I have lived in a world when I have never charged anyone for what I do because I dedicated my life to be a mom, to be a church member, to be a community helper, and to set a price or make people happy is something that I really need to work on. I mean, it's not that I don't value myself. Actually, I would go with the 8%.
Yeah.
Because I know who I am.
Right.
To say it in a way that, yeah, that feels good for the other person and for you.
Yeah.
It's something that, yeah, I really need to learn even the language, you know. My husband doesn't like to negotiate. You tell him a price, he pays it.
If you need your house listed, let me know. Love those kind of negotiators.
Just such an amazing person. Like, why? Why did you value their work? And it's not that I never did it because in Mexico, when you go to the art
Gallery?
like galleries, and stuff,
Like a
but the
fair.
markets like fairs. Oh yeah, I would be like, oh come on, but I am taking this, but I used to do that.
Yeah.
But it's still great.
Because it's
With
fun.
their
You're supposed to.
hands. With their hands.
Yeah.
So, and then I went through all this process of valuing more my own culture because I was like always like, oh, come on, give it a better price. That's what that was.
Yeah.
And then I got into all this and I was like, oh my goodness, I really value other people's work. And I became like, but
I think that might actually be really to your benefit, Erica. Hearing you talk about, you did mention your choice of words was I don't know if I can make people, I'm worried about people making people pay me a certain amount. I think they'll want to because of your value. And I think it's great that you value other people. So you should also expect in turn that they'll value you. I had an investment property. Mm-hmm.
the energy of conversation. I have right now like things that they reckon it's good.
Yeah. That's awesome. Yeah, I had an investment property in Indianapolis, and I'll share with the client if they're, super concerned about commission, and said, look, I hired another agent to do, to sell that property, and as agents, we can usually get a referral fee even out of state. I didn't charge him my referral fee. I wanted my property sold for the most money possible. I paid him 6% out of state. Never met him, but I knew that that was his fee. That's what, he told me, and I didn't try to negotiate that. So it's something that, I could easily share with clients too, right? Well, even as an agent, I pay 6%. If it's not something here that I can handle or I need another agent, I'm going to pay them 6% because I understand how this process works and I want them working and doing their absolute best for me. So I think that's great that your husband does. Yeah. And I think it's great that Moises doesn't do that with people. He doesn't negotiate, and you shouldn't expect people to with you. And if they do, just this is the fee, and I'm happy to go above and beyond for you. You're happy to negotiate with them in other ways. In the end, I'll tell you what, I have lowered my fee, a time here or there, and especially when I was newer. I'm not suggesting that you should because you're newer. I really don't think you should, but I've lowered my fee, and those are the hardest transactions. The people that just got another agent that will do it for this, or got another agent. I had a client I signed 6% agreement with just recently because it was in next to my neighborhood. There's some townhomes next to our neighborhood. And that was that. I went and met with them, know their family, and I knew their parents had used somebody else, but I was thrilled to get their business. And we signed for 6% and we went over everything. I explained it. They called me back. Kammon, how hard is it to get out of this agreement? I was like, oh, you're not planning to sell your house now? And yeah, we want to sell it. Okay, well, just maybe you can tell me what's going on. Well, there's another agent and he's helped my parents before and he's willing to do it for 4.5%. And we, I didn't quite understand, and so we went through this process. I talked with them, let them know I was going to work hard for them, and I didn't want to lose the deal. And they were still like, well, we just think we want to cancel. And so I talked to them too about the difference in agents and how, yeah, it's tough at least it would be tough for me to trust somebody that can't negotiate their own commission. It's just, they're willing to throw out, something lower. What are they going to do when they're negotiating your biggest asset? And he thought about that a little bit, and we chatted, and ultimately ended up doing it at 5.5%, which was, bummer. Same thing with this divorced couple. I don't know what it is with 5.5% lately for me, but I was going to lose the deal. And I thought he had still asked, about canceling. I said, look, what if I do help you out? I want to show some good faith and show you that I'm willing to help you out a little bit on my end. And ultimately we ended up getting it sold, and it was great. And it wasn't hard. It was really close by, and it was fine, and I did take a hit on it. And yet I didn't have to spend more money on video and marketing and all that. It was under contract pretty quickly. So it was a win-win. And I felt like I needed to make it work, even though I had a 6% listing already signed, and I care more about that relationship. And I did have to show a little bit more value, and I had met with them and everything. So it was odd. That doesn't normally happen, but it was just, I don't know, just an example of something that, he was still willing to pay more because he could see more value, but he wanted to feel like he was being taken care of. So, and maybe I could have done it differently. I don't know, but that's what happened. Any other ahas or questions about anything we've gone over? Anything you guys? Sure.
Buy side, so the seller side, it's easy to be like, I'm gonna get you more money for your house because I'm gonna market it, I'm gonna negotiate for you. On the, did I say on the sell side?
Uh-huh.
So on the buy side, like you can bring value by your negotiation and you're gonna let people in their houses, but like what's like your silver bullet?
So I would look at those value square sides. They list all of them out for buyer's agent and seller's agent. I don't feel like I have to do I don't know, much convincing on the buy side. I'm in real estate every day and know all the ins and outs, the contracts, and can help them. I talk to them about options of seller financing. And I think when we go through that, honestly, I think the silver bullet is open-ended questions. If there has to be like pinpoint one thing that really helps you to get a buyer to sign on and that's good with everything, is really getting on emotional connection and understanding them and having them understand that you're going to do your absolute best for them, that they're important to you and that you're going to go to bat for them. If they know you're a professional and they know you care about them and that you're going to do, get them a great deal, then I think that, I don't know, you could go into all kinds of maybe little things of how you send reports and what you'll do. But I don't know. At the end of the day, I think they want to know that you care and that you understand them. Most people, they say, it was maybe 2 weeks ago that we had a lady came by and present. You remember the lady that lost her son, her baby? And she had, man, something hit me so strong up there. She said that there was a quote and it said, I'm going to botch it if I don't look it up. I took notes on it. I thought it was so good. It was about love and hearing, right? It was, oh my gosh, connection is energy between being heard is so close to being loved that for the average person, they're indistinguishable. That quote in particular, I thought, okay, people need to be heard.
Because that is a dramatic statement.
That was so powerful to me. So I thought, wow, somebody feels like they're being yeah, she did me too. And I thought, wow, I went up and talked to her after. Wow, how amazing this was. And I could feel her, her suffering of losing her baby. I, wanted to cry and think, oh, I can't imagine what that's like. But that one statement of being heard is so close to being loved that for the average person, they are indistinguishable. I thought, wow, that, no wonder that buyers and sellers really want to be heard. No wonder we ask open-ended questions. We need to know who they are, what their goals are, what's most important to them, be a fiduciary to them. So, and the commissions just kind of go along with it. They naturally come. That's why I'm not worried about commissions. Is this all these things change? I'm still going to sign agreements as I always have, and they'll, maybe we'll do a little better job of explaining them. We'll have different forms, but in the end, you're going to do an amazing job for your clients, and you're going to deserve every bit that you get paid.
And-
So,
And I really do want to stress this. I've been trying to dip back in. I came from highway sales for 20 years, and I was on a bunch of different committees and things like that. So I've been going to my old meetings and stuff just to go see all the people I've worked with for years and years. And I've asked in these different meetings. I went to a UDOT meeting like two weeks ago, and I asked a few people, "Hey, have you heard much about this stuff that's going on in real estate?" And literally nobody that I've asked has said anything. They said, "Yeah, maybe I've heard a little bit, but I don't really know."
and honestly, most people don't. I've had other agents say, "Hey, what do you say to your clients when they've asked?" I'm like, I literally haven't had one person ask me.
No.
And so I don't make a big deal out of it. I don't worry about it. You are going to have, and you may have one that has studied the whole thing and knows more about it than you.
Yeah.
Oh, that's great. And this is what we do.
And then what I've said to them, like after I bring that up, they kind of want to know, and I've kind of played it down a little bit because I think that I honestly feel this way is that Utah has always done a pretty good job. I don't feel like there's there's some things down in the south and some areas that they don't even have agreements when.
Yeah, you got sue happy people that are just trying to find a loophole. They were
Yeah.
happy with selling their home. That's why they agreed to it. And then they found a loophole because the buyer's agent just didn't happen to have an agreement with the buyer.
Yeah.
And now they feel like oh yeah, maybe I shouldn't have had to pay. And they only feel that way because attorneys and other people have told them that. So they found a loophole in a system, even though they were happy with what they got. They had an agreement, they signed it, they were, happy with paying all that. So
There's just many lawsuits that go on in highway work. As I was in two pretty bad lawsuits about hardware and crap. And people just don't hear about that stuff on everyday life.
there you go, yeah.
Oh, that's why they sued Keller Williams. And I was like, wasn't it national?
Yeah. Well, they sued us too. And they sued other brokerages because they're big.
That's the names like Williams or Berkshire.
Yep.
Others. It's because they have sales for over 2,200 million of dollars.
Right.
That's why
Right.
they appear.
Yep. Because we're big.
because
And they
they're
know
big.
Keller Williams has money, and we've been smart with it and built a big business.
Before,
Right.
oh yeah, because we are big enough to show
Yep.
up in the map.
Yeah, that's right. Yep.
But if we are realtors and we are in the association, we were, I mean, the whole, I was at that moment, but yeah, it was for everybody.
Right. Yeah, everybody. Yep. It, mhm. Yeah.
In case that comes.
And personally, I just don't feel like, I mean, it is a big deal, right? It's national news, all that, but not for most people. Most people don't care. They don't even care always about you until it's time to buy or sell a home. And then they've got to think of the person that they've, relate that with, that's been top of mind, that's been doing the 36 touch system, that's been calling them every quarter. Have you guys been doing this stuff with the daily success system? Who's done any of this? Who's done all of it? Do you know who Riley is in our office? Riley Condor? Yeah. He's had huge success. And he came in every day. I would see him at one of those cubicles, and he would do at least 10 handwritten notes. He would go through, he'd make his calls, and Nivalee finally gave him an office for a little while until he could afford his own because he was so loud. He was out and he was just, "Hey man, da da da, you know I'm doing real estate." He was on the phone. It was awesome. And I just thought he was the coolest guy because he would always come over and ask me questions. And I'm like, yeah, whatever I can do to help. And then now I'm like, oh, dude, awesome. You're killing it. Like, he's doing great. And he like did this to the T. He went through and had 10-minute conversation. He would add contacts. He did all this stuff. If you ask him, he was super systematized with it from the beginning. So if you have some goals, I would make this a part of it. Have those conversations and write those handwritten notes and let people know you're in. Handwritten notes are a big deal.
If I'm almost through my contact list, they're like list of what all, like, because I'm almost done with mine. And I don't know, I might just start door knocking and stuff, but
Yeah,
there's
door
like-
knocking would be a good way.
Yeah.
The other way is asking people that already know you, like, trust your contact list. Hey, who else do you feel like I should be talking to about this? I know you said you're not, planning to move anytime soon. Who else should I know? Who else should I talk to? You could ask them for, contacts. You could host, and I know it sounds weird as a new agent, but you could host like a training, and you don't have to do any of it. You could talk to a lender that does a lot of business and say, hey, I want to do a training for first time home buyers. I want to do a training. And you could have yours be super simple where you introduce the lender, you share a couple of slides and talk about it. Don't leave time for questions if you're nervous about it. And then have the lender go through and do the other training on these certain types of loans. So, and you can send that out to your whole sphere. I don't know, I did a few of those beginning that you can increase your contacts that way. I left flyers on cars at Walmart one time. Out for lunch one day, I was like, just gonna do a bunch of these, and I don't know. And you can do one for lenders are always willing to do things, right? Free appraisal, free, and you could write it up as a free home valuation report. Leave that out. Once in a while, I'll post on Facebook. I haven't done it for a while. But normally I have people I'll put, free home valuation. And and I always just put curious what your house is worth or what your home is worth. And then, here's a link for a free home valuation online. And they click it and automatically it'll send them like comps around theirs. And then it'll let them know that I'm going to do a detailed home valuation for it. And of course, I'll try to set an appointment too. That's the goal. I don't know. I never actually went through Ignite. This is all fairly new to me. Oh, I was an agent before I got to KW, so I was already doing a lot of things, but I like the systems better at KW. But I don't know. So I'm not sure what that is. Yeah, I'm not sure. Maybe it'll say here. Conversations, handwritten notes, utilizing. Yeah, it doesn't say, oh, it does say social media. Yeah, it doesn't say about enrichments, appointments. I would think of enrichments as enriching your relationship with other people, but I don't know. Once you enrich that, you'll have appointments and get agreements and then have closings. That's the way I see it, but I don't know if that's right. Do you know what the 10-5-1 is on social media? You guys. Just kidding.
But I have this time, visit someone, check on people, calling, and the normal me. So come and pick me out. She said, go and do it, then go and do that. And you know what? I had a surgery after an accident, and she was really bad and sad. So I got stopped by, and one day I posted the Angie event for the 55 and plus community. And when I came, and she was like, "Oh, yes, somebody posted," and then maybe my brother might be invited together because she's so I was like, I promise I was just visiting you because you told me.
Yeah, well, you don't even have to explain yourself. Yeah, that's awesome. That's fantastic. That's great, Erica.
I was like, okay, then I'm gonna go and talk to people.
So the 10-5-1, in case you want to know, is 10 likes on other people's stuff, 5 comments, and then 1 post. So, and it just helps the algorithms in whatever social media. If you're liking people's stuff, a lot of people care and they'll look and who's liked it and they're looking at your stuff. If you comment, they definitely notice it. And if you do 5 comments, yeah. Yeah. So make 5 comments, stories, posts, whatever, and then 1 post, and then they're going to be engaged more with your stuff. If you're engaging with theirs, then Facebook or Instagram, TikTok, whatever, I assume will engage them more with yours. So stay engaged on social media. That's it. I'm going to run through the rest, but you are supposed to spend, thank you. It does say to spend 45 minutes and make those 10 calls, and I don't know, reach out if you have questions or get stumped with something.
It's really helpful just to hear you talk about how you say things and how you frame things, how you think about things.
Oh, thanks. So nice of you. I'm sure there are better scripts than what I have. I don't know. I feel like I know a few scripts, that are pretty good. And there's some that I just don't know, but the open-ended questions I can always go back to, right? I don't have to have a script memorized to care about somebody and to ask about them and what their goals are, what their expectations are, and how they're feeling. And I don't know.
Or just the technique, like,
Yep.
can I ask you a question?
Sure. Yes.
House, and I've never done that before. Can you kind of just walk me through how you think through that process? So like, obviously we want to look at comps and
You're going to submit an offer for a buyer.
yeah. We want to look at comps. We want to find out what we think is fair price. This seller has just dropped their price pretty aggressively in April. Once at the beginning of the month and once a couple days ago.
Okay.
It's like 20,000. It's a townhome. It's listed at 449 right now. It started at 485. But 2 of the big price drops just came in the last 3 weeks. So these buyers want a concession of $10,000 for the rate buy down to one, and then they want to offer a lower price, $20,000. So it'd be a $30,000 drop.